Hello everyone and welcome to Mappers Episode 9. I of course am just the regular host of the show, Nerski, and then joining me once again is going to be Archville. We have Iron Man, and then of course Super Uman. Prodigy pretty much is out, so if anybody was wondering what was going on with that, it's basically the deal. Prodigy has other things going on in his life now, so he's probably not going to be around. I'm going to be updating some of the show intros and all that kind of stuff moving forward, but I've had a pretty crazy week this week, so I haven't really had the opportunity to get to some of that stuff yet like I wanted to. So how's everybody doing today to start things off?
Feeling great. You're okay? Europe is not.
I went to bed at 3. Okay? I'm tired. And to celebrate my wakeness, I'm having a Stella Artois.
It's a good way to wake up.
It is.
Hey, you know what? I've done plenty of history stuff. You know, back in the day, everybody drank it all the time. It's true. It's true. It's part of the reason. It's watching what was it? It's watching a show last night, United Stats of America, I think it's called, on like History Channel or something. They're like, yeah, part of the reason why America used to be like the tallest people in the world is because we drank a lot of beer, so it killed bacteria, so we didn't get sick. We lived longer.
Archville, the master of electricity.
You're the master. You've become our own Nicholas Tesla. So anyways, guys, welcome to Mappers. We're going to be talking about kind of a general theme for our show today. Is going to be kind of the future of map design. We're going to be talking kind of a little bit about some of the things that will be coming up on the horizon, kind of talking about anything we would like to see happen with the Galaxy Editor as Heart of the Swarm, and the beta for that should be starting to get within months instead of years away. And then, of course, we'll be talking about map makers of the future and what we expect to see out of those people. And just like nuggets of wisdom that our current map makers can bestow upon them. But before we go into all that, I want to talk about a little bit of news, because I think this is relevant. One of our map hosts here, Archville, is actually one of the judges for this, and that is going to be Map of the Month May, which the finalists, if I recall correctly, should be getting posted on the 27th. Am I correct in that assumption, Archville?
We will post it when we are ready. Doing it the Blizzard way.
I read somewhere that supposedly around the 27th is when we'll be getting with the finalists.
Okay,
that's what I'm going off of.
I didn't know that, but yeah, given how far we are, that should be around that time, yeah?
Yeah, around the 23rd, so you got 4 days. You got to get it done, man. Get it done. But he is one of the judges for this month for Map of the Month May. Of course, there's also going to be Monitor from ESV.
It's tougher than you'd think.
I can imagine. So I was looking at some of the maps, and there is some pretty crazy maps this month. Like, they're good, some of them. Some of them I don't like, I'll be honest. I looked at some of them and went, no, I don't like that map. It's like I'm a Zerg player and I'm looking at this one map and it's got like just all these chokes everywhere. I'm like, nope, I'd never want to play on that map. I'd play Protoss on that map and I'd just get killed by force fields. But there's a lot of great maps up there, a lot of map makers contributing to Map of the Month May. Of course, there is the notoriety of getting chosen as being the map maker for the Map of the Month. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Map of the Month May, but I'm sure they'll be tying that up shortly and announcing a winner for that. But we're going to get into our topics today. Of course, I was talking about the theme of the show was the future of map design. And when I say the future of map design, I kind of want to put a little asterisk on this, because I don't want people to go off the hinges, so to speak, with what I'm talking about specifically with the future. I'm not talking about is there going to be fewer resource bases, is there going to be some crazy addition to the Galaxy Editor. I mean, for the most part, we're going to be keeping it real as far as things we can expect in the future of map design. Not things that are vaporware, so to speak, where it's like, it's an idea, it's floating around out there somewhere, but who knows if Blizzard or anybody will really ever pick up on it entirely. It's just like an idea floating out there. We're going to talk more specifically about things we can actually expect to come out of some of the map release and design. Some of these things we've maybe touched on a little bit in some of the shows, but we haven't really specifically talked about just what we see down the road for map design as a whole. So the first topic we're going to be talking about today is Heart of the Swarm. and what will eventually be, because they definitely said it is going to hit with Heart of the Swarm. They don't know if it'll be at release of Heart of the Swarm or more likely a little bit after release, and that's going to be the addition of the arcade and store. Now, there's been some screenshots that have gotten out on the web of the arcade. I'll see if I can bring one of those up onto the screen for the viewers at home as to what the StarCraft 2 arcade may indeed look like, because I was looking at it and I don't know if this was actually something Blizzard released or not.
What? What are you talking about?
There was a... Well, they had the BlizzCon panel that had the... that was talking about it a little bit in 2011. I'm actually just going to bring up the screenshot. This was, I believe, one of the screenshots that was actually from BlizzCon, if I recall correctly. I could be off on that assumption, but I'm pretty sure it was out of the BlizzCon stuff that this actually came to be. I'm going to actually shift this screen over a little bit because it's a little bit off, it looks like. But it was actually a screenshot of what the arcade might look like and how you would have everything reorganized. They've said multiple times that they're going to be working on reorganizing the arcade in general. They weren't happy with the way the current system was working and how difficult it was to find a lot of new projects and such forth. But I want to talk to it in a little bit in relation to map design. Now, obviously, this is something that's, I think, in some ways going to affect the UMS scene more than the map design scene. But we had touched on a previous show briefly a little bit about the whole concept of getting money for your work, right? So, I mean, the thing that I'm really looking to hear from you guys, obviously, is do you think this is something that's, from a monetary standpoint and from a getting some reward and notoriety for your work, going to be something that you guys think is going to be something that's going to be more related just to the custom UMS scene? Or is this something where you guys think that in some ways this may help you guys either in testing new maps because you might be able to get the map more visible within the game? Is this going to help you guys financially speaking? Do you think that you'll be able to utilize the store hopefully to be able to charge people to download your maps? Or, as I said, is this going to be something that you guys think is going to more affect the custom UMS scene?
I don't know how good it will actually be, though. I mean, well, think about it. Like, if we get a map store and supposedly people pay to download your map or something like that, like, then every map maker will begin making money at some point, where it completely throws away the idea of sponsorship and, you know, other big organizations that want to pay map makers exclusively like they did in Brood War. I don't know, it's kind of on the fence right now. It's like there's a good thing about it because the map store is almost like guaranteed money in a way, but I don't know, it just kind of ruins the idea of what a sponsorship would be, and like it would not make map making as exclusive as it could be, you know what I mean?
Is it a bad thing for it to be exclusive, or for it to be less exclusive, though? I mean,
well,
should there be a barrier to entry? Do you think that's necessary?
I mean, are you talking about both melee maps or just about UMS maps?
Just, well, I mean, Blizzard hasn't said specifically for 100% certain.
I mean, when he's talking about sponsorships and exclusivity, that involves melee maps as well.
Oh, I think Iron Man was talking specifically about melee maps, as far as sponsorship and stuff goes. I don't think he was touching on you.
I don't think it will be possible with melee maps.
I don't think that is ever going to happen anyway.
Yeah, with melee maps, I don't think it will happen at all. Because I don't see why people should pay for melee maps.
Yeah.
I can see for UMS maps there are some totally different modes, and you can have like a different game inside the StarCraft 2. And with melee maps, can like if like Daybreak was you should pay to pay on it. I mean, why would you pay for it if you can play on another map which can have a similar gameplay?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, if it's true that you're gonna have to pay to use Mapped, I would think it's probably going to be more of a tournament thing. I don't see individuals paying 10 cents to play your map, like, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think I'd see that either necessarily. I just kind of wanted to bring it up as a what-if scenario more than a like a
There's
would
really
you
no
even
detail
consider
on
it scenario more than a more than something I think would necessarily happen. I think monetarily wise, it'll be mostly geared toward UMS stuff. I'm just kind of curious though, with the release of the way they're changing this. I mean, they're part of their goal was to give more exposure to the new things that hit the BattleNet as far as maps, UMSs, all that stuff go. I mean, as far as I think you guys are concerned, I think you guys are probably right in the fact that we won't really see any financial changes in regards to melee maps. But I'm curious, leaning more towards the exposure part of it, do you think this is going to be something that's going to help you guys out a lot more? I mean, is it difficult for you guys right now to get your maps visible actually on BattleNet?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, and from what I've seen of the arcade beta, there's nothing that's really promoting melee maps. Because it's two different things, you just need to treat them differently. I think to help you, if you look at the picture, you have like the one you just showed, you have the most popular maps, and that would be nice to have something like that feature for melee maps.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have the most popular, the new melee maps, something like that. So the people were like, okay, I would like to try out something. And right now, you can't really just try out a map because there's like a million maps and you have no idea what it is. But if there is a popularity rating, something like the UMS, what they're doing right now, that would actually help. But I haven't seen anything remotely like that from screenshots.
Yeah, I mean, they had basically a what's hot section, an up and coming section, and then a news and noteworthy section. I mean, I don't know if this particular picture of the arcade that's been getting passed around was some specific function of the arcade. I would hope Blizzard would have it be so it's at least similar in a stance that like when you're going through the arcade you can look at custom games and then you can click onto something else and bring up melee maps and you have a similar layout for like the melee maps. You know, you have an up and coming, you'd have a news and noteworthy, and you'd have a what's hot, and then you'd have that list section. So, I mean, I would think if they do that for the melee maps, where, like, depending on what type of map you're looking for, whether it's a custom game map, a melee map, a 2v2 map, whatever, like, if they did it for everything within the arcade, I would think it would help you guys a lot in exposing new stuff.
I think it's going to have a lot to do with, I think there's going to be some correlation with, like, the popularity system. Like, the map store will help probably popularize melee maps more. Because right now, people are complaining at how the popularity in custom game search on Battle.net is like really, really bad. So I think the map store is going to fix that. But then, like, what do you do with the popularity system on Battle.net? So it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Even if it doesn't have to do anything with pay, it's definitely going to have to do something with popularity. And like maybe most played maps, like. Or like a map that gets played like 1,000 times will be like on the front page of the map store saying like these are, the most popular maps, or I don't know. Or if there is pay, but if there is pay, I would assume that it would probably be more for tournaments. Like, well, MLG will look at this map and it's popular, and saying, hey, we want to use this, like, buy it. Get the map file and then edit it for their own use. Like, I can see that happening, but I just don't see how.
Yeah, I don't. That'd be tough.
Like, why would you pay to play a map though? That's the other thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure you would necessarily see that happening from a player standpoint. I don't know if. I mean, I would hope. I know JoJo's sitting in our chat here, and you're gonna be doing something with him a little bit later this week or next week or something like that. I'll let you announce that at the end of the show, though. But I think what would be nicer probably for you guys is for these tournaments, and I mean, and definitely having organizations like ESV and TPW will probably help to make this even in the realm of possibility, where eventually you could get to the point where maybe you guys can maybe not necessarily get paid by your average player X for a map, but maybe at least get to the point where you guys can get paid by the tournaments and stuff using you guys as maps, you know. I mean, obviously all intellectual property goes to Blizzard, so that there's like that caveat, I guess, on it, where technically everything's owned by Blizzard. It's not really owned by you, even if you make it in their system. You know, they technically own the rights to even the stuff that you make. Although there could be some, you know, like there could be some argument there since you're actually creating it. But
yeah,
I would think if anything with the map store or with the store front, I mean that's probably going to mostly I would think affect UMSs because I think there's probably to some extent for a good UMS a lot more time and effort that goes in. I mean they're essentially like standalone mini games versus just creating a board to play the existing game on. Which I don't want to, you know, make it seem like dumbed down because there's a lot of things to consider when actually making a Melee map. But there's a lot less programming and changing the game involved, I would think. So I don't know what the time differential is specifically because I haven't actually created a custom UMS. Maybe if we had somebody like Amara or something like that as a guest on the show, they'd be able to tell us a little bit more since they've done both. But
if I could take one more guess on how this map store might work, it could be that you would pay to receive the map file, but you can already open it in the editor. You just have to go to a certain file. So if Blizzard removed that and then made the file payable on a map store, I could see that working. But because right now it's like my map Ohana, like I've seen it pop up in tournaments with like edited versions, and I'm like, who gave you permission to do that? It's like they know how to do it. So it's like I can see the map store being as a way of like, we'll give you money if you just let us have it, kind of a deal.
Right. So maybe your average player could just play on the map, but if they wanted to actually edit it, they'd have to pay the author to edit it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I can see that working, but that would require changes in the editor.
Yeah. It would have to change the way you download maps too. Because of what you're talking about. Because right now, if you download a map, you can just open it in the editor and do whatever you want to it. You could put a big stuffed bear face in the middle of Ohana if you wanted to, just because you felt like it, and then use it.
You can also download on some website, like for IC Cup and at least I remember when we were IC Cup. In a lot of websites, our maps were uploaded. Like we didn't even know from where did they come from. I mean,
well, I mean,
and from there, people can do edits whatever they want.
I mean, in some ways, in Bird War, I mean, like, as far as like you guys being able to control the intellectual property that is your maps. I mean, like, obviously, like back in, I guess, in earlier games, it was a little bit easier in the sense that you almost always had to upload a map to a web server, and then for people to get it, they had to download it from a web server. It wasn't so streamlined like Battle.net is. Where now, if you put it up on Battle.net, I mean, anybody can download it, anybody can have it. I mean, the only way you'd be able to really to prevent that is to not upload your map. But then what, of course, stops somebody else from uploading your map for you, right? You can't really stop them from doing that. So I don't know if, I mean, just because Battle.net's so easy, I mean, it's almost like the kind of the same thing as a share site, right? Like, I mean, there's no way to control what goes up on the Battle.net for you guys. Even if you create a map, if anybody has your map, because either they were testing it for you or whatever, and they decide to upload it, it's just going to be up there, and then everybody can have it. So it's not really a good way to control it from a financial standpoint. But I think what I'm personally kind of hoping for, like you guys in general, is just that with the way they changed the arcade and the search functions around that, at bare minimum, it helps you guys to get exposure for the maps. I mean, that's my personal hope, I'd say. I mean, I doubt it's going to be a great money-making tool for you guys. Though there's potentials out there maybe, but I think as far as the arcade store goes in relation to map design, I mean it'll be great for the UMS map makers, right? Because now they'll be able to sell their mini games eventually, supposing Blizzard goes through with it, which I think they probably will. I mean, they've actually started to adopt that concept even with like Diablo 3, which I'm sure a lot of us were playing a lot this last week. With the real money auction house and stuff. So it seems like they're starting to move in that direction where people can sell their work through Blizzard in the game somehow. So it seems like Blizzard's making that shift, just in general, where people can create downloadable content instead of them creating DLC content. But like I said, I think my biggest hope would just be that maybe at bare minimum it helps to get you guys' maps more exposure in the future.
I can definitely see the store helping with exposure mostly, but maybe
You
depending
can
on
be
popularity.
like featured. So like they use right now their featured function.
I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to our second topic in just a second, but we are going to do a quick break really quick. As the show is going, just for everybody who's tuning in and viewing, make sure if you guys have questions, you keep them in mind. Don't post them in chat right away, because I will lose track of them and I will have a heck of a time scrolling up to them. But you can either tweet them throughout the course of the show to me at GoForNersky, or you can just save them till the end of the show and post them in chat. Either way is just fine. Just make sure you don't post them in chat until we're actually asking for the questions, because otherwise I will have a tough time scrolling up to find them later on. We're going to take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we're going to moving on to talking about the Galaxy Editor, a little bit about the future of the Galaxy Editor, and impressions of the current software, things we can change when we come back in just a moment, guys. So stay tuned, more Mappers in just a minute or two. Alright everyone, hello and welcome back to Mappers Episode 9. We are, of course, our overall kind of theme of the day, we're talking a little bit about the future of map making and map design. Talked a little bit about some news and stuff earlier in the show. But we're going to be moving on to our next topic. We've kind of gotten a little bit about what might be potentially coming that's going to actually affect map design, aside from obviously the balance changes that'll come with Heart of the Swarm, which are going to be kind of unpredictable what they'll do to map design until we really see what they do to the game. So we're going to move on to the Galaxy Editor. Now, I haven't heard if Blizzard's going to be doing much with it. I'd assume there will be some changes to the Galaxy Editor come Heart of the Swarm. Some of them will probably be more aesthetic than actual functional changes to the software, although they do update it every now and then, just in general. But I think a lot of it will probably be more related to tile sets getting introduced to it that they use when they're creating all of the Heart of the Storm campaign material. But I want to talk to you guys specifically a little bit about the Galaxy Editor, and not just about the Galaxy Editor in general and how it is now, but a little bit of your overall impressions of working with the Galaxy Editor. And then moving forward into the future, if you could change things around with the Galaxy Editor, things you might change or suggest that somebody like a Blizzard change moving forward in the future that you'd like to see added to it, just to make you guys' lives as map designers a little bit easier. So anybody who wants to start on that, go ahead and just start chatting.
Bug fixes. Bug fixes. That's all.
What?
If it was working perfectly without any bugs, I think I would have everything that I need.
Uh-huh.
I like the editor. It's really flexible. Like once you learn all the hotkeys, like how to maneuver and rotate and all that kind of stuff, like it's really fun. And it just feels so quick. Like you can just make a map like really fast. But there's just like so many like little annoying bugs that just like throw me overboard. Like sometimes, like when you first open a map, it starts out like at an angled view, and then you try and like rotate to get a 90-degree view, and all of a sudden it like flips you upside down, and you gotta like fix that. Or you know, I'll test the game, and then I'll go back to the editor after quitting, and then all of a sudden I can't zoom out, I can't see all the doodads appear. It's like you gotta reclose it and open it back up, and like there's just little bugs like that that really need to get fixed. But otherwise, the map editor is like really fun. It's pretty nice once you get used to how it functions.
You say it's flexible, but for me it's very it's not at all. Like what I really want is a tile by tile terrain editing. Like you really place the cliffs really like you want, and also ramps. I want more ramps, like 30 degrees, custom ramps.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
I complain about it since day one.
Well, that would be fundamental changes to the game, which would require a lot more than just the editor.
So I mean, is there any like specific tools and stuff that you guys think they need to add to the game or adjust? Or I mean, is it mostly just the bugs that are like really driving you guys nuts?
I think there needs to be some kind of a function that helps with 3-player maps, like, because right now it is ridiculous, like what you have to go through just to get the layout. Like, you have to do a lot of imports of drawings and things like that, and you know, do different resizing, and like there's nothing, there is absolutely nothing that helps 3-player maps, and there's nothing that has diagonal copying and pasting. A diagonal copying and pasting would be kind of nice. It's not a problem at all, but it's just.
It would be just useful.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like,
Or maybe some kind of a different mirroring system, something.
Kinda, yeah. I don't have any real beef with the editor. I actually like it, but it's just little stupid bugs, like I mentioned earlier, that just get in the way sometimes.
So if anything for you, you'd like to just see more added onto it, like maybe tile sets and such forth like that, doodads, things for you to play with.
More of that.
Yeah, they plan to add a model editor inside the map editor to create your own models and do that.
Yeah,
And
the models might be hard, depending on
Yeah.
how they do it. I wonder if it'll be actually like a model creating software, or if it'll be like a
Yeah, they created
Yeah, they would.
in BlizzCon they should
always
be
been able to-
automating.
Yeah, you've always been able to import models and stuff
Right.
like that. It's actually pretty nice. In that
But
regard.
the problem-
But, they were releasing their own tools for it.
Yeah, because I mean, like right now, you basically have to use something like a 3ds Max and like make a wireframe and then
Yeah.
paint the wireframe. And not very many people can do that. It's not very idiot friendly, I guess, to be the way to put it. Like if I don't know how to make a 3D model, I'm not gonna just make a 3D model. So I'd be really curious if like this, like you guys were talking about, they were talking about 3D adding models into the game. I wonder if intuitive enough that almost anybody can do it, or if it's still going to require a little bit of 3D modeling experience to actually do and put into the game. I don't know. That'd be a really cool addition, though.
I think if I were to go up to Blizzard right now and request a change, I would say to make the data editor a little more understandable. Not simpler, but just more understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
mode.
No. Honestly, like
when I work
with water in the editor, like there's like 50 different things you can do with it, and I don't even understand what like 90% of that stuff does. And it's like, well, what does this do? And you try it, and like you don't really see a change, and so you have to like remember, like, well, okay, I got to put it back to default, and then like it's just like there should be like a little description tab next to it where you can like hover over it and it tells you exactly like what it does. Like, oh, this makes the water more crystal-like or clearer or something like that. Like even something like that would just make it so much better, because I sometimes get really intimidated with water stuff. Like,
yeah,
like I know a couple things with that, and so it's like I just need to. I wish things were a little more understandable in the data editor.
Yeah,
in the trigger editor too. Like we should make really an easy mode, because right now I don't even know how to make a simple trigger. For example, like destroy this building. Like you have to use a really more complex way to do that.
Yeah, the trigger systems and the scripting system in it is, I mean, you almost have to know computer code to actually be able to do it. I mean, it's not very obvious. Like, there's not just there's like you were saying, there's not just something that says, oh, trigger to destroy something, and you just like, you want to destroy it at this time, or you want to destroy it after this many seconds, and it'll do it. It's like you have to like know like if then. I mean, it's almost like I used to program in Visual Basic and Basic, so it's like almost like using like if then else statements to like make this giant block of code.
Yeah.
That's like if this equals 3 minutes, then this, then that, then execute whatever.
Yeah,
the
like
code is for it.
Like I opened up the trigger tab before, and it's like I have no idea like what to even type. Like
me too.
You see. Simply put, like, you cannot do it if you do not know that sort of, like, scripting or programming. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I think that the data editor just in general could just be a little more understanding. And like I said, not more simple. Like, don't take the 50 options that you can do with water and make it, like, 3. I'm just talking, like, give a description of what exactly each thing does, so I don't, like, look at this word and I'm like, well, what does this do?
Well, it's
like,
kind of, I mean, it's kind of like using like using a literal comparison, right? It's kind of like the whole concept of what Steve Jobs did with a lot of technology, like the iPod and the iPhone and stuff, where he didn't like reinvent the software that was already there. He just made it really stupidly easy for anybody to be able to pick up and use, and reduce the amount of stuff you have to do to accomplish what you want to do. And I mean, I think that's really maybe a direction Blizzard should consider going as they change the Galaxy editor in the future. Is you got this great editor, now create interfaces that dumb it down, like Super Ruman was talking about, where it's like you have like your advanced coding mode, kind of like a lot of web design software works like this, where they have like a GUI interface where it's very visual, and it's like you just click and drop stuff into it, and it's a little limited because there's only so much you can do with just click and drop and drag and point. But if you know how to do more, then you can go into the advanced code editor and edit the direct code to do little finite adjustments and do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise with just a regular graphical interface intended for novice users. So maybe, like Super Roomman was talking about, they have maybe like eventually 2 modes to it, where there's like a novice mode where it's more graphical. It's like, I just want to change the color of the water, and look, I got a little slider bar, and it goes up, and now it's green, and now it's red, and now it's blue, and now it's clearer, and now it's darker, something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like dealing with like sliders and clicking colors and stuff, and not you need to know how to script a bunch of code that changes the light refraction numbers to now make the water more translucent so that it's not so, dark blue or whatever.
Yeah, it's like back in high school. I took computer classes for like web design and stuff, and we had different categories. We had one category for HTML, which is more beginner, and then when you got that down, you went on to PHP, which is the advanced, and JavaScript and all that jazz. So it's like there should be something like that for the editor. I think right now, what really separates good mappers from both Melee and UMS from the beginners is the knowledge that they have. But if it's understandable, yeah, you can all just kind of go down that same path, but what truly separates you is how you apply that knowledge.
Right.
So I think it should be accessible to everybody, as far as I know. And like someone keeps telling, I've had a couple people, they're like, hey, you should do a Melee map tutorial on how to use water, and I'm just like, well, I don't even know how to like use it. Like I know like 3 things on what to do with water. The rest is like I don't even touch it because it's like I don't want to mess it up.
Right.
So
you don't want to break your whole map and then not know how to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Okay, honestly, honestly, like sometimes if I go and mess with water or lighting, I will literally get a piece of paper and I will write down the defaults for all of it and then just start playing from there. And it's like, well, if I mess up, then I can just put all the default back in and be back to normal. Like, I don't want to forget that kind of stuff.
You can copy-paste the properties. Like, you open another map, copy-paste to your map where you edited. So you can have a backup.
What?
you can copy paste the properties of water from map to map.
Oh, you're talking about like open a map that has water that you like, and then look at the properties and just copy and paste the information. In
Control C, Control V.
How do you copy and paste it?
Can you export it like you can with lighting?
No.
In the code? Are you talking about like in the file code?
No, there's no code to copy water. It's like
settings.
You would have to write down all of the settings that it's at.
This. How do you pronounce Control?
Control C, Control V.
Yeah.
We don't know yeah.
You don't need to.
You can't. No, you can't do that with water, though. I don't think.
I can do. maybe because of your Mac, maybe it doesn't work.
Man.
Just like a PC, man.
Oh man.
Super OE man, the most knowledgeable map maker around.
So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, that would definitely be something for them to think about. Because I know for me personally, I mess with maps in Brood War. I've messed with maps in StarCraft 2, but I've never actually created a map because everything I make ends up not working at all because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I can get a base tile set kind of down. I can kind of get everything raised and lowered the way I wanted it, and then I kind of am almost set up, and then I'll be like, God, it'd be really cool if I could do this, and then I'll try and do it, and like I'll end up with like. I finally figured out how to get a guy to go from like a unit to go like on a waypoint from here to here, but now it won't attack anything, and I'm like, okay, it moved, and now it just stands there and dies. I just wait. Now what do I do? You can just get lost. I mean, you literally have to spend hours playing with triggers and stuff to start to like. It's almost like a trial and error type of learning curve because there's not really any good ways. I mean, like there's some tutorials out there. Don't get me wrong, but to actually create an entire map and like read through the tutorials is just like you have to really be committed to it to learn the triggers off the tutorials and such forth.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because yesterday I was doing Google searches on Map Editor for StarCraft 2, and there were a lot of links that led to people asking like, how do I use the Map Editor? Are there any tutorials for beginners and things like that? And it's like, there aren't any. And it's like, you know, I don't know. Like, there should be at least a tutorial by Blizzard, you know, where they, like, zoom in on this part and, like, okay, you want to click this, and, you know, oh, this is what this does, and Like just a very general, brief tutorial. I mean,
That would be
What
nice.
what they
It's
wrote
just-
is
Maybe
open a
that's what they
map,
have to add.
uh,
Tutorial
look
mode.
at it, and apply it. Like it's nonsense.
nonsense.
Maybe
yes.
that's what they really need. They need the new they need the new interface. But before they get a new, easier to use interface, they need to just add a tutorial to it where you can like click on like a button in the game that says Galaxy Editor Tutorial, and you click it, and then it's like this whole thing with voice, and they show you what everything does, and you can click on it and like have like topics with the tutorial and be like, this is how you edit triggers, and then it like shows you right in front of you. You're like, oh, light bulb. Okay, I get it now. Maybe that's what
Yeah,
they
like
need to
a-
add in lieu of redesigning the whole interface to make it simpler.
Yeah, like an FAQ kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they've put up some tutorials, but I mean, like, there's not that many, and you really can't create a map off the tutorials that they've
Yeah.
posted.
Like I made a tutorial a little while back on how to begin a melee map. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it's basically like, okay, well, this is how you lay down your terrain and your start locations. This is how you set up a mineral line. This is how you measure the grid and where to pinpoint things and how to copy and paste and things like that. And this is how you publish. And people look at that and they're like, this is still complex. So I'm just like, how simple can I get for you folks? It's like, there's nothing out there, and I just don't like the. What do we do? I mean, it's a complex editor. Like,
Yeah. Aside from Blizzard dumbing it down a little bit or releasing some super detailed tutorials.
yeah.
Maybe you could get like Bill Nye the Science Guy to do it or something. He's good with kids.
I haven't watched that guy in years.
Hey, I grew up with Mr. Wizard, man. I bet you don't even know who Mr. Wizard is.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't
Bill
watched
Nye
Bill Nye in like
was
10 years.
I'd hate to say like your generation because I'm not that old, but like that group of kids, Mr. Wizard was Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's why I use Bill Nye, because more people would probably
Oh.
recognize him than Mr. Wizard. He
Bill
was the
Nye,
original like
science guy.
science
Bill,
show
Bill.
explaining things guy. So anyways, guys, I think we're going to wrap up this topic now. And we're going to
Okay.
move on to our next topic. We're going to take a really quick break once again, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about map makers of the future, and I'll explain that topic when we come back a little bit more. Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Mappers episode 9, where my screen has just gotten all weird. There we go. So, we're going to be moving on to map makers of the future, and in specific, we're going to be talking a little bit about, obviously, the fact that nobody can do this forever. The map makers who do StarCraft 2 aren't necessarily all the same map makers who started making Brood War maps. There might be some of them around, obviously, but I'm sure there's quite a few who probably started making maps in Brood War, probably even maps that were used who probably don't even make a map anymore. So, we're going to talk a little bit about this, because obviously nobody can do it forever, giving little, I guess, nuggets of wisdom from the map designers we have on the show to future map makers, people thinking of getting involved in map design moving forward. So I just want to start by asking you guys, like, for you guys, what would you consider as the biggest hurdle just to getting started in map design?
Patience. People must be patient.
Patience, yes.
You must take your time to learn the map making. It doesn't come in 1 month. I think I made decent maps in Brood War like after a year, so something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And before that time, I was just messing around, trying to understand.
Yeah.
I just saw the Illidus comment that Super made, so I was sorry. I was a little distracted because I saw Illidus.
I know, I was like, what?
In the Skype chat, and I was like, what?
That sounds like a WoW reference.
Yeah. Well, are we talking about... No, we're not talking about... Wow.
I know.
Thank God. Thank God. Don't get me wrong.
It reminded me of Illidan.
I played WoW. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
I would not want to talk about World of Warcraft at this point in time, especially now that they've like defaulted to like panda bears, monks, and stuff. Like, that game has gone so far off of what originally made it awesome.
Shut up. Just shut up about it.
Anyways, back to what we were talking about. So, I mean, biggest hurdle to getting started. So, you guys were talking a little bit about patience. I mean, is that patience just in regards to learning the editor, or is it just in regards to learning everything in general?
Both.
It's everything in general. Like, it's one thing to learn the editor, but you also need to have a critical mind to the metagame and how to analyze it and everything that you create in the editor. Every piece of terrain you lay down, you need to make sure that you can wall it off. You need to make sure that it's wide enough so that force fields don't become too powerful. You need to make sure, like, well, this is too much space for a colossi to get into a main base. I need to shorten that step, you know. There's too much airspace behind the natural. I got to move the natural behind. How much space do you have between the edge of the natural to your minerals? You need to leave enough room so that a spawning pool can block it. Like, there's just so much stuff like you have to think about. So many little things. It's not just like, all right, here's my main, here's my natural, here's a mineral line, here's a tower. That's my map. It's like,
you could do that. Just probably
you could.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of people do that for a starter. But it's like there's just so much little things that you have to pay attention to, and and a lot of it comes down to the tiniest little square on your grid. Like, one little missed square can change something. So it takes a lot of patience, as Super said, a lot of patience, especially when you don't get paid for it.
And also you have to...
That's just competitive gaming. It's like, welcome to our world. Like, 5 guys get paid and everybody else just does it because they love it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess when we're talking about these hurdles and such forth, I mean, going off of what Super was saying in regards to where he started making Brood War maps, obviously, would you say that, I mean, people, if they're going to get into this, like, a reasonable expectation for them as they're learning the map editor, as they're learning, like Iron Man was talking about with the nuances of map design, learning, like, oh, I have to have room for a spawning pool here, I didn't know that. I mean, what, in you guys' opinion, is, like, a reasonable expectation of time somebody should allot themselves before they're going to ever make anything that's actually halfway decent? I mean, do you say, like, should you expect it to take you a year to learn it all, 6 months, 3 months, a week?
I would put it in hours.
It depends on the person too.
I mean, depends on the person. There's been a few map makers that have been doing extremely well, extremely fast, but
Yeah,
for
like
most map makers, I would
like we
say
said.
you would need like 1,000 hours in the editor before you fully understand how map plays out.
Mhm.
So
It just
overall,
depends. It depends, like how much time you devote to learning it. Like, if you spend 30 minutes on it every day, every week, it's like you will learn a little bit. But if you spend like 3 hours on it every day for a week, you'll learn more. And it also depends on where you choose to stop. Like, people will learn how to copy and paste, but then they won't want to learn any farther than that. They'll just like do whatever they want. So
kind of like you in water.
I could learn more, but I'm just like, yeah. I was never really good at math, so I don't want to deal with all those numbers.
So I guess going off of that, though, I mean, talking about the one of the biggest hurdles getting started is you guys really mentioning patience because of the time it's going to take to learn everything. How do you guys feel that somebody can keep themselves motivated through this process of learning everything and getting started, learning the editor? Like I mean, you can talk about how you guys stayed motivated for yourselves or how you would have wished you stayed motivated. Like, how do you keep yourself motivated to continue going on? Because there's not really a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, as we all know. You're not going to make, $1,000 a month making maps at the end of this pot of gold, rainbow thing.
Well, you gotta love the process. I mean, there really is not much of a reward, so it's hard to keep motivated that way. You just gotta love making maps. You just gotta
Yeah.
love being creative and making a product, and hopefully someone will play it someday. You just gotta love that. Otherwise, you're not going to make it anywhere.
Yeah. Like, simply put, like, map making isn't for everybody. You can say the same about anything. Like, you can love playing football, but if you're not the devoted kind of person to want to make a living out of it, then it's not for you. Like, you have to strive for it, and you have to love it enough to get to that point.
Well, the difference between this and football is that there may be a pot of gold in the end if you play football.
Yeah.
But there really isn't for map making. There really isn't that big thing you can strive for. There really is only the process that you gotta love. And then, a few of us have had some success. I mean, it could be some motivation that if you're back the ladder and you see everybody, thousands of people play on it every day, that could be a kind of motivation. But it is. If you're a new map maker, that is so far out for you.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I've been on Battle.net a few times where I would go to the create a game section and I would just type in a random name or a word, and you'd get like 50 different maps that you have never seen and you've never heard of before. Like, there are a ton of maps that you have never even thought of. And to be honest, like, it's not really there, I guess I should say, but you have to look at the big picture in that sense. It's like, well, they create a map that they like, but they just don't devote to it like the more exposed map makers do. And that's just the thing. Like, to stay motivated, you have to love it. Like Arkville said, it's a hobby. You have to have a mind for it.
Maybe take the little rewards you can get along the way, like somebody used my map, something like that, rather than I'm going to get some huge adulations for, my map. You got to take like the little rewards you can get, like, some little tournament used my map, or somebody really said they liked my map when I posted it on TL, more so than I'm going to be the most famous map maker in the world. You can have that goal, obviously, but you have to have more practical goals and just really love the whole art of it, the art aspect to it, more so than the reward aspect, I guess is what you guys are saying.
Yeah. Because you feel like you can do something in the editor that maybe no other map maker could do or hasn't done yet. And it's like, wow, like, I created this and people like it. I mean, it's just, like, you can just actually do stuff on your own. It's not like a business that says, okay, you need to do it this way. It's like you can just make it look however you want. and that's one of the greatest things about map making. You know, I mean, there's a few standards like, well, you need to have like this many bases and you know that sort of a thing, but when it comes down to the art aspect to it, it's all you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to move on to the last part of this whole section that we're kind of going over. And I'm just going to go into the last part, which is if you could give one snippet of advice to just somebody who's new, somebody who's just picking up the Galaxy, like say they just picked up the Galaxy the other day, they've decided that they really think making maps is cool, they think they'll have fun doing it, what would be the one little piece of advice you would give to that person as they get ready to embark on this journey to create maps?
Take in as much as advice as possible and deal well with criticism.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's very important.
If you're a
I
person
think that's
that,
another important.
yeah, if you're a person that hates being judged, or you get butthurt over comments, like do
Yeah,
not
it's
get into
important.
map making.
Yeah.
I think
Then it's gonna get rough.
I think you can speak from that personally, because I just saw a post this week, Iron Man, where somebody was criticizing one of your maps. We were talking about it a little bit before the show. Ohana, something about worker distance.
Yeah, it's like. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I still get annoyed.
He had a
if
whole
people
post and
criticize
pictures
my
and
map.
everything.
I think every map maker, even the really good ones that are used to taking these criticism, we're still affected by when people telling our product sucks. Even if we try to tell ourselves, well, that's just part of it, but it still affects us in some way.
Yeah. If I had to give anyone advice who wants to get into map making, just don't think about the big picture. Don't open the map editor and think, okay, I'm gonna make the next GSL map, or I'm gonna make a super pretty map. Like, don't think about that. Just focus on getting a decent layout or a concept. And by that I mean focus on your base layout, the travel distance between you know, your base to your opponent's base, where you want to put the watchtowers. Just focus on that. I mean, you might feel like, well, I won't. Yeah, I mean, you might feel like I won't learn it in time, or I want to like get up there with the other guys as soon as possible. But we're not going anywhere for a while, and you know, Heart of the Swarm is going to come out soon, and we got to like learn some new stuff too. So you just need to take it one thing at a time. A good map boils down to a good concept or a layout. And if you can really focus on that, then you can start worrying about everything else. Don't even worry about adding trees, even. It's like, you can add water, but I mean, don't even worry about trees or other doodads. Just focus on the layout. And if you can, you know, really understand symmetry and copying and pasting and understanding why this ramp needs to be 1 wide and this one needs to be 3 wide and things like that, or why the tower should be here, why you should have 1 tower or 2. Like, if you can just understand the basics like that, then you're going to be well on your way to becoming a good map maker.
Iron Man, any thoughts, or not Iron Man, Subaru Man, any thoughts on your end as far as advice would go for somebody just getting into it?
They should take criticism into account. But try good criticism. But when you start, it's harder to see the good criticism, so it's maybe tricky. And also they should try to copy like the GSL maps to see the all the map features, like the width of the paths, the chokes, so so they can feel what is it. And the most important thing, I think, is to have fun. Because if you don't have fun, you won't make maps a long time.
I'm actually really glad you said that, because I was going to actually mention that. Because I mean, well, I'm not top of the run map designer or something, I can barely make a tile, the base board set, let alone make it work properly. I mean, speaking especially from my point of view, doing a commentary, having played professionally back in the day, all that stuff, not necessarily played professionally in StarCraft, but in other games. That's definitely got to be, I think, a really good piece of advice that Superwoman gave at the end was you have fun with it, because people are going to hate you at different times. They're going to hate something about you no matter what you do. I mean, going back to the criticism thing, they're going to absolutely just dislike something you do, and then you're going to have those moments where people just love something you do. So you just got to make sure that overall you don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about the people who are going to hate you. Don't worry about the criticism. Be mindful of it maybe, but at the end of the day, do whatever you want to do to have fun with whatever you're doing. I mean, especially if you're going to be getting into something that can be especially as difficult to learn as map design like these guys do. Make sure you're just having fun doing it, because that's the most paramount thing that should matter is, am I enjoying doing this right now? Because, I mean, I could go on and on in the commentating world about some of the stuff that drives me insane that I have to deal with. But I don't let it drive me insane because I'm just having fun. I'm just happy to sit around and cast StarCraft 2 games, cast some League of Legends stuff, cast some whatever stuff. That's just fun for me to do, sit in front of an audience, host a show like this, and just do it because it's fun for me to do, to sit here, talk with some great people, talk about some awesome stuff going on in a video game. That's good enough for me, and I have fun doing it. So, I'm really glad that Super Rumen happened to mention that, because that's some really good advice there.
Yeah, basically it's like, I'll try and correlate this to something in StarCraft. People will say, to get better at StarCraft, you need to learn from your mistakes. And a lot of people miss that, apparently. To get better at map making, focus on the layout. That's as simple as I can probably put that. And kudos to A176 in chat. He said, post your map on Team Liquid for helpful community feedback. That's definitely the best place and the best starting position to go to get map feedback.
Yeah, in the map section, actually.
All of us mappers always go there. We may not comment all the time, but if we really notice something that we feel we can give good feedback on, then we'll say it. And just pay attention to what we say. Don't think we're elitist or that we just dislike your map, or we're just saying you're bad or anything like that. We're there to give you advice and say, hey, you should try this, or you should try fixing this, and things like that. So listen to other map makers. They more than likely know what they're talking about, and the best way to learn is to collaborate with the feedback that they give you.
Alright guys, well I think we're going to wrap up that topic on that note. We're going to take another really quick break. In the meantime, while we're on break, if you have questions for Q&A, now is your chance to post them in chat. I'll double check my Twitter to make sure nobody tweeted questions there. And then post questions if you have them in chat for these guys. They can either relate to today's topics or be whatever topic you would want to ask a question about. As a heads up, I don't know if it'll be next week or potentially a week after that or so, but we're going to be doing a just purely Q&A show soon, where basically you guys will just be able to ask all the questions in the world that you possibly want to ask. I might actually have the questions submitted in advance and make a separate post for that particular show, where I'll give you guys a specific place to send questions to, and then we'll go through and basically do like a mailbag thing to ask really just any question. But if anybody has any questions about today's show or just questions in general for these guys, get them prepared, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to Mappers episode 9, and we're going to be moving into Q&A, and I'm going to update the overlay right away this time, because I didn't do it last time. I did it like 5 minutes into the last topic. So we're going to go into Q&A, and we're going to just start from the top here of posted questions. And I'm going to get through as many questions as we can, guys. We're going to answer a couple questions. If we don't get to your question, you can always save it. You can tweet it to me. You can PM it to me. We'll try and get to it at a later time. Like I said, we are going to be putting together like a mailbag show where we'll just answer questions the entirety of the show. I don't know how long the show will be. Probably like 45 minutes to an hour long of just answering people's questions. And that will probably come once I actually have enough questions to put a whole show just based on Q&A together. And I'll probably make a post about it in our official post that's on Team Liquid as to how to go ahead and participate with that. But we're going to get to a couple of questions, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So, guys, we're going to start out with Matthew Mega asking, on the topic of new map makers in the scene, we saw the debut of the Pro League. Is there an elephant in the room with Brood War map makers coming over? Do you see them moving over, and how does their approach differ, and what can they offer to the scene in coming over?
Oh, they're coming over. I haven't seen any yet, but
I've seen one STR 1802 who made maps like Katrina. He made some SC2 maps, but I don't think they will make a huge impact on the map scene because what they could do is to introduce experimental maps in the Pro League and OSL, which other tournaments are very reluctant. Is that the word?
yeah.
No. Okay.
I think, yeah, like you said, I don't think they're gonna have like too big of an impact. They might just be more tournament exclusive, like just making Pro League maps or something like that. But I don't see them being any more or less different than ESV and Team Crux. Like, I think they're just going to be right there in a short amount of time. Maybe not right away, but in time, yeah, I think that they'll just be right alongside those. And
yeah, if they're going to reach that point, it's going to take a while. I mean, if you look at how much the map making scene has developed, there might be really good and smart guys, but they really have to start over on completely new products, and it's going to take a long time. They might have to bring in some new ideas. The thing is that many new creative ideas need to be like accepted first before we can use them widely. If they aren't accepted, then tournaments are not going to accept it before it's been used in other tournaments. So if they introduce new features into the Pro League, or that's probably going to be an OSL Cross Triangle 2 as well. If we can introduce it there, then we might be able to see some new stuff that we didn't see from Crooks, for example, when they got into the GSL. So it might happen, something might happen, but it's going to take a while. It's quite a bit out in the future.
When I switched from Brood War, I made my SC2 maps were a lot like Brood War in terms of layout and base distance. So I think they will have a similar progression as me. Like, the first map will be like Brood War, and then they will slowly adapt to the SC2 gameplay. I can see that.
Yeah. I think I want to chime in by saying that Pro League uniquely has a situation where obviously it's a CUSPA bound league, so if they decide to use maps that integrate new concepts into the maps, the players have less wiggle room than, say, in a lot of other tournaments. They can't just not participate in that tournament with the way CUSPA and the teams and everything set up. So I think Pro League might have more room to do different things with maps that you maybe haven't seen in the past, because their players just have to play on it. They can't, they could complain if they wanted to, but they're not really going to necessarily get very far if Pro League decides to do something. Pro League will decide to do something. They haven't really said anything about whether or not they're going to be going on their own tangent with maps, or if they're going to be utilizing a lot of the existing maps that a lot of tournaments use or not. I mean, thus far they're just using essentially what you see a lot of the other tournaments using. But we'll see if that changes in the future. I'd say they have some room to do new things if they wanted to, a little more so maybe than your common map maker does, only from the standpoint of the fact that their players are kind of in a situation where they don't have a choice about playing on the map. Which has kind of been sort of the case in the past with Pro League. I mean, they would come out with new maps and the players just played on those maps because that was the Pro League maps, and it didn't matter what you thought of the map. That was the map you're going to play on that season because that's the map that Pro League gave you to play on. So they might have some room, but we'll see. Let's go on to the next question. And I believe it was Superman who was willing to answer this, so I'm going to bring it up anyway. Superman was asking, he said he saw Diamond's interview and it shot me. I don't know how it shot him, but apparently he got shot. I'm sorry for you, Superman. I hope you're okay. Anyways, all of the pure 4-player maps have died down in use. By pure, he means the 4-player maps with all 4 spawn positions being possible. And he's asking, with the new Overlord changes, would you agree that now is the time to relaunch 4-player maps? And of course, specifically speaking towards a lot of tournament maps have fixed positions nowadays to prevent either close spawns or whatever. And with the new Overlord speed, do you see that particular change changing this a little bit more, or do you still see 4-player maps kind of still sitting a little bit on the wayside as far as being true 4-player maps where you can spawn at any of the 4 locations? I know where my opinion lies, but I'm curious what you guys think.
I am working on a new 4-player map right now. That's still in testing and won't be released for a couple more weeks or so. I have all spawns enabled, and I've run probably around 10 games on it with Masters, and I haven't had any issues with it. Close spawn, Terran versus Zerg, or anything like that. No issues yet. So I think that the Overlord change is not necessarily impacting 4-player maps in general with close spawn, because you still have to think about Terran versus Protoss, you know, and close spawn Banshee harass and things like that. So I don't think the Overlord fix is really going to fix it, but I think that it makes all spawns have a little bit more potential, but probably not enough to really relaunch that sort of a thing. I think it really just has to boil down to the fact that it's a rotational map, and that's just bad design, but I don't know. I mean,
the overall speed change has no impact on the design of 4-player maps. It's more about the distance of the third compared to in a reflection map, in a close position. The issue is that the position of the third must be close, but it's not always possible because you must place the third in the middle of the map. I mean, in the middle of the edge. So the natural to third distance will be really wide. So then the fix would be to place a third expand close to each natural, which would add a lot of expands on the map, and maybe unnecessary. And
Right.
for rotational maps, the issue is the same with a third. and since it must be close to the natural, and the distance between both naturals are often not that big, and there is very often positional imbalance. And in my last map, Dragons of Eden, you can see there are two different thirds compared in. Let's see. So the players can take the chosen third in I don't know the word. Like the third fort from the opponents.
Yeah, I think I'll sum this up because I think I know where you're going with it. I mean, I largely I think what Super is talking about, so you guys can get what he's talking about, is that
yeah, I had some issues.
It's totally fine.
You have some issues.
I think I understand where you're going. I mean, if you think about the Overlord change, right? Overlord speeds faster, so now it makes it a little bit easier for Zerg to potentially scout. But it doesn't change things like if you had close spawns of Metalopolis, 2 racks bunker rush is still way too powerful. It doesn't change things like in super close air positions like Metalopolis. Banshees can be just devastating to Protoss players, or Warp Prism can potentially be devastating to a Terran player. It doesn't change the way the rush distances work with the metagame. It helps Zerg to scout, so for Zerg players it makes it a little bit easier for them to play on either larger maps or maps with multiple spawn locations because they can potentially get overlords in place in time. But there's still, I think, a lot of other factors people wouldn't necessarily think about right off the top of their head that would probably have to be addressed, and the only way those can really be addressed is by the map makers, right? For them, when they design a 4-player map, to take things like 2 racks bunker rush, fast warp prism drops, fast banshee harass, fast drop harass, all those type of things into consideration to make sure that when they design their map, it's not going to be too overpowering. And I mean, if anything, I mean, I'm speaking for you guys a little bit, but I assume if there's been any move away from 4-player maps, it'd just be because with like a 2-player map, it's just easier to deal with all those type of things because you don't have to do it between 4 different locations. You just have 2 locations to deal with.
That's why I make 2-player maps.
So
like we all do.
Hopefully that kind of answers your question to get an idea of why I do that. Jojo, I'm going to briefly touch this question because I think we've kind of answered this before. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it. He was asking about people doing experimental things and experimental maps making it into tournaments specifically. I know this is something we've kind of touched on in our map designers have talked about before, so I'm just going to briefly say that the longest story of the story is most tournaments won't use an experimental map for starters. And secondly, the players don't tend to like experimental concepts. So it's hard to get the players to accept them, and as a result of the players not liking them, that makes the tournaments even less likely to use them. So that's why I think when we were talking about Pro League, for instance, that would be the type of situation where something more experimental could potentially make it in, because the players have very little say about what maps they're going to end up playing on in that league. Where if Pro League said,
and also trendsetters.
This is fun, right? Yeah, they have maybe a little bit more of a out to that. That doesn't mean that if you have an experimental idea you want to do as a map maker that you can't do it. It just means that you likely may never see that map in a tournament pool if you do it, because the players would have to accept it before it would be doable. So it's not that you can't do it. It's just that, I mean, like Prodigy, who used to host on the show every week, is a perfect example of somebody who was willing to do stuff that was kind of experimental, but as a result of that, he knew it was less likely he was going to ever see his map in tournaments or in the ladder pool or something like that, because he was doing something goofy on that map, just because he wanted to. So
yeah, it's like I mentioned on the other show, like there's really not a big demand for these types of maps. Like that's just the way it is. Like people want competitive 2-player maps or a competitive 4-player map. Like people are not saying, oh, we want to start adopting 3-player maps or island maps or something like that. If they were to say stuff like that, then we would just jump the ball on that. But no one's really showing interest in that. You know, there's a few comments saying, oh, well, an island map would be cool, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Like, we're not seeing tournaments adopting a Korean island map, and if there was, then we can be like, huh, I think we can actually give this a try now. So it really depends on the tournaments. We just have to follow what the tournaments want. So we can experiment. I've made a couple island maps, and they've been sitting in my map folder for over a year now. So you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna have Anvil God's question be the last question because I think it's a pretty straightforward question. It might be really easy for you guys to answer. Can you decrease the volume of the map editor somehow? I watched the show, but I want to watch it without World War III happening when I delete something.
Yeah, I know that feeling because whenever you delete something in the editor, you get a huge sound. Yeah.
I totally forgot about this. I disabled the sound and I totally forgot.
My suggestion.
It's possible to disable the sounds.
Decrease the volume of the map. What does he mean by that?
Map
Decrease
editor.
the volume.
When he's like, he has the map editor open in front of him, but it's loud.
File preferences sounds.
Yeah, if you have
Decrease
a
the master volume.
Yeah, my suggestion would be if you have a volume mixer on your computer, if you open the volume mixer, it's like this giant list of programs running. Hopefully one of them's the map editor, and you can just turn the slider down, and then you're golden.
Oh, that volume. I thought like the map editor as a whole. I'm like, what?
No, he was talking.
I was getting so confused. I might just minimize it.
It was
nice one.
It was a little bit of a gag question because I thought I'd throw it out there because we're gonna wrap up the show actually at that point. I addressed one guy's questions already. I sent him a PM back on TL, so he can check that out as to why we didn't get to that question specifically on the show. So that's going to wrap it up for now. So we're going to move into our shoutouts and closings so we can wrap up the show because it's starting to get late, and I know a lot of these guys are going to have to go. Some of them have to go to bed, etc., because some of these guys are on EU time, mind you, so it's getting pretty late by them. So we're going to go to shoutouts and closings, and today we're going to start with Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Archville.
Just want to give a shout out to my team, the Predator Workshop. That's it.
Iron Man.
Alright, well, shout out to Stella Artois. Amazing beer. If you are not a beer drinker, I suggest you try it. Anyway, for real though, I do want to give a shout out to Diamond, who is just a really great guy. He'll probably never watch this though, but just a shout out to him. Also, there is a little show going on next week that I want to just mention really quick. It's in the StarCraft 2 General section on Team Liquid. It's a show, and it's called In the Spotlight by JoJo SC2 News. And basically, this guy is really cool. I'm going to be on the show with him next week just to talk about map making and things like that. But he's talked to guys like from Empire. He's talked to Neil Kaplan, who is the voice of Tychus. He's talked to Empire Koss and just interviews them and just talks about different things like that. So I'll be on that next Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully that's enough info. So he's actually in the chat right now as JoJo SC2. So shout out to him. Be sure to tune into that. There is a thread on it, like I said, in StarCraft 2 General Forum. So shout out to him. Looking forward to it. Hopefully people can tune in. And ESV fighting.
Alright, and last but not least, we're going to move on to Super Uman.
So you can follow me at on Twitter at ESV_Superman. And I recommend you to watch the Pro League because it's featuring the future players of SC2. Like in a year or two, they grab every DSL trophy. It's better watch them climb the SC2 planet.
I'm going to assume that's it for Superwoman then. So, of course, you guys can follow me on Twitter at GoForNersky. I do a lot of StarCraft 2 and just gaming in general commentary. I've had a lot of stuff up on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/NerskySC this week in regards to Diablo 3. I have the entire storyline posted via playthrough form in there. I'm going to be doing a review of the game sometime at the end of this week. And I'm going to start doing some more general StarCraft 2 casting on there as well. I've kind of gotten away from that because I've been doing a lot more live stuff, but I'm going to start posting some more stuff on my YouTube on a more regular basis. So other than that, guys, you can follow me on Twitter. Follow all these other guys on Twitter as well. Their Twitters are listed. Iron Man has a thought besides his dog.
Lately, we've been having a lot of trouble getting some testers for mapping on Battle.net. Please, volunteer. Test our maps. We need it!
Yeah, he's right.
So make sure you test guys' maps before Iron Man has some kind of a cornea or, like, you know, he gets a stroke in his head. But anyways, guys, follow us on Twitter. You can go ahead and follow the channel if you want. I always update what's going on with the show on Twitter and in the show thread for the show, so you can make sure you can check out the show's official show thread. You can post questions for us, topic ideas in there. I'm going to actually paste that in the chat before we, boom, head out. And that's going to be it for today, guys. So thank you very much, everybody who's tuned in. We love you all. Big heart to all of you. I can't really make the heart thing with my hands that well. But you guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you very much. And we'll see you guys more likely than not next week, unless anything changes. And I'll always update the show thread as to what we have going on with the week. So bye for now, guys. And I'll update that intro/outro by next week, hopefully, maybe.
Alright. Bye!
Bye, guys.
See you.
Outro complete with dog. Surprisingly, my dogs, I don't think have ever talked during the show.
I have to go sleep.
You have to
You
go
have
sleep.
to go sleep now.
Yeah.
No, I is in bullshit.